Breath of the Wild has a multitude of speedrunning categories, which can range from get to the end quick and do shrines and get to the end quick and don't do shrines, but taking it a step further, a new category has surfaced recently. One so skilled and so completely epic gamer that it doesn't even have a leaderboard to back that bad boy up. Defeating Ganon and saving Hyrule is definitely a feat to brag about, but not even collecting all 1 million little pieces of poo-poo and unsheathing a badly broken butter knife can hold a candle to this time-sensitive smackdown we're about to lay down. The goal of this category is to do something I struggle with IRL. This is get laid %. Golly gee willikers, you might be thinking, furrowed brow and all, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a children's game. Papa Nintendo would never allow the option for such debauchery. But hidden away in the game's code exists a single scene in which this Oompa Loompa asks you to console a sensual Sheikah known as Paya. The screen fades to black, but using camera manipulation you are able to actually witness the events unfolding. If you're still not convinced, please read this excerpt from a manhandling Miyamoto interview.
I thought it would be really cool if when Link spends the night with Paya, they totally boned. But I felt as though some Karens would probably be upset if their kids were walking in on a fictional couple boning this time, so I opted to censor it.
Now that we're all insanely convinced that this is in fact the canon outcome, we can begin our speedrun. The pretty Paya is in fact a classy gal, and despite being the definition of class and elegance, it'll take more than a wink and a hya to get this gal to open her shrine. So before setting out on this journey, I mentally laid out the route in my mental mind. Pulverize the plateau, cascade to Kakariko, get a cam for post-coitus pictures, show sensitive side by helping freaks with dumb problems, and finally, shrumping in a downward direction. While the run was active, my stream minigame was raging. To spare too many details, essentially that bobbing bitch of a bot in the bottom right corner known as Cyborg-chan will roll item boxes when instructed by chat. This has a variety of effects that can result in various hurdles in the game. That being said, we start the run and I've already shot myself in the foot optimization-wise since unlike the majority of Monster Hunter 4 insect glaive mains, I am not French. But we press on and grab our iPad and quickly turn it on to make sure that it works to catalog the prime Payas later on. Channeling my inner radical Larry, I force myself into the corner in order to vibrate through the wall, and by doing the tried and true method of force something until it breaks, I managed to break on through to the other side. Papa Nintendo hid the box known as the Resurrectee Residence under a mountain, and despite looking like clear skies, it impedes our way, but by skillfully crouching down and running, I once again forced myself through something that didn't want me to get in. A camp of bokoblins are getting baked off to the side, and being the good Samaritan I am, I decide to confiscate their pot lid, but for whatever reason, this gives me a gnawing feeling of hunger, so I snag a couple of snacks for the journey ahead. Styling on the president, I hop over this incomplete wall and surf my way over to this tree so that from this point on, I get to ask the questions. Zelda calls me up trying to convince me that she's the best girl, but I shrug it off and make my way over to another camp of bokoblins. I raid their toy chest to steal a few arrows, but decide that the bokoblin bullying is not quite done, so I run over to Billy to beat him down for his bow before Barry blissfully attempts to play hop on pop, but having watched an action movie or two, I smack him mid-air and take my prize for beating down the bokoblins. Hearing sirens in the distance, I head to this cliffside and begin to scale it, but being incredibly out of shape causes me to slow down so I can catch my breath. Skipping the tower means the shrines were never activated, so unfortunately we can no longer ring the doorbell to be let inside. Instead, I dismantle the oppression by pulling off a sick grind on the side which skews my whole world view, and I use this to my advantage in order to finagle my way inside the previously closed structure. Once inside, I grab the ability to turn things yellow, and the sudden change in hue is so shocking to most things they are paralyzed in fear. So I hop over the bridge and return it to normal to charge up my yellow ray before firing it again at the boulder so I don't have to wait for traffic. This however depletes my meter again, and I'm forced to sit in front of this rock like a moron because I was too scared to attempt to shield jump to the side to skip it. I decide to do something most millennials don't and willingly visit an elder who rewards me with a ball and story we drown out. Nintendo loves text so much that it being on screen causes the console to load even more just so there is more text time, so we wait for it to pass before skipping the cutscene for a faster transition outside. Despite not meeting him, Papa Nintendo stops by to drop exposition, but I masterfully select options to stop talking to him. Putting my own fresh take on this stage's launch, I purposely screw it up to keep chat on their toes and smugly climb the cliff I easily could have skipped. Surfing over to this spot, I shout out to Bobby and Butch using their cousin's bow before beautifully lining up my angle. Once I smash my picture, I launch off in the direction of the Limcube castle and negate my fall damage through sheer willpower. Hitting those sick grinds again, I sneak my way inside and steal the blue beam, which allows me to give water the cold shoulder that I often receive from most people I try talking to. Receiving another ball reminds me that balls often bounce, so having two in my possession, I decide I need to make them feel more at home. So by balancing here next to these beastly bokoblins, I bellow them before me and proceed to make like a ball and bounce off Betty, but the angle was slightly off, so I land short of my destination and have to proceed on foot like a fool. Grabbing some more arrows and a stick for later, I proceed to procure some chili rods, again, for a later trick. I make my way to Magnesis and rummage for a ruby before grinding one more time in order to swoosh right into this hole and into the shrine. Magnet Manor is a pretty simple place, but my pro self manages to job at once to some rocks before getting an icy stare from Cyborg Jan, which meant that I had to sit still and pontificate as to why I designed a stream minigame that was formulated to spread my metaphorical stream legs for the viewers. Once the frostbite wears off, I managed to maneuver out of the magnificent Magnet Manor, maintaining my brand new ball when Cyborg Jan reluctantly hands me a time stop, allowing me 30 seconds off the clock to set up a makeshift monorail minus the rail to blast over the pond and towards the tower where Papa Nintendo's ghost haunts us for a moment before I erect my first tower of the night. Afterwards, I again clench my butt harder than a melee player with a 2-stock advantage, who took one hit in a tournament to avoid breaking my legs when Papa Nintendo's paraglider stops by, asking if I've seen the old man, to which I lie and say no before taking in the scenery. Since lying gets the heart rate up, I decide to jog over to the bomb shrine, which is now active since we've had our first erection. A few explosions later, and I leave with a total of 2 more balls than a 2-ball having person would have. Lo and behold, though, CC decides to stick a clock yet again and tries to trouble me with another freeze BB, just as the beep beep Jeep tries to laser focus a death onto me, but I manage to duck behind the corner before I'm forced to sit still. After running some more, I completely bungle the silly what in the name of Hylia trick, and CC decides to add insult to injury by tacking on another freeze BB, which makes my face redder than that of someone with a really red face. One Temple of Time scaling later, Papa Nintendo gives me the A-OK to go to town on the sultry Sheikah and passes on the paraglider protection. However, since I never sat on the hill, Father Time never got the memo that time is actually progressing, and the game's been stuck at 5:15 AM in-game time, so I poop out a few bombs to Team Rocket back to the beginning and plop down on my mark, but forget exactly which way I'm going before I'm treated to a title in an empty cave. Another bump or two and I'm back at the Temple of Time, where I grab some stamina sauce and climb back up to catcall Ben Bokoblin, before distracting that zoomer with the same thing he's seen a million times and doing an interpretive dance that displays how badly I want to hold Paya's hand. With a bonk on the head, I'm off towards my love, but the wind really took that one, so I land a bit off to the side and am forced to bump yet again to get back on track. When backflipping and farting proves too difficult for me, I elect to try the age-old stasis launch, but the years haven't been kind to me and I forget the timing repeatedly before getting it on my very first try. I shoot a quick hello to my target and let her know that I'm ready to go before heading inside to hear another story about the good old days from someone much older than me, which coincidentally causes CC to feel rather blue. Afterwards, I head outside to rid myself of the stench of mothballs and activate the shrine for an easy port back later. A bad bomb leaves me out of position and I attempt to remedy it with my dwindling resources to recover HP and attempt another one, which leads me over to this Bokoblin camp where I distract Bella with my wood and then wish her an iced day, before focusing intently on that Boko butt and bouncing off those bubbles to head to town. After crashing into the lovely hillside, I decide that shooting arrows and walking would be too difficult, so I elect to smuggle the fabulous flame and bomb my way up the hill, before telling the Apple rep my iPad doesn't work. She fixes it and gives me the kind of kindness I can only receive from restaurant workers feigning interest in me for tips. When she asks for me to take her picture, I do what any logical adult would do in that situation. Nearing the end, I decide it's only fair to give as much as I want to get, so I go around town handling cocks. Afterwards, I sell my ruby for rubies and head up the hill to get a preview of Paya's private parts when I tell her of my good deeds, before snapping a picture for an old man who refuses to walk 10 more feet. He pays me for my artistic vision, and then I show him a special little something too. Shot down, but it's alright since it's not our target. I head back to town and begin to gather fireflies, but my excitement thinking about seeing Paya's shoulder proves too much, and I move too quickly, scaring the insects. I manage to grab 4, and just as I'm about to get the 5th, jumping proves a challenge, and much like some horrible Bugs Life fanfiction, I manage to get cucked by a bug. I reload the area and snag that last creepy crawly before bursting into a woman's house unannounced to unleash my horde of insects. When trying this in real life, it generally yields different results, but this is a fantasy world, so she thanks me, pays me, and I get to test out my moves by calling her pretty to not have her mace me. With a compliment given and my eyes not filled with pepper spray, I get a surge of confidence, only to find Mia Moore on the floor and sobbing. She's scared of a slippery salamander that stole her shrine sphere, so we're asked to comfort her in her time of need. Despite the fade to black, we know what's really going on behind the scenes, and the run is concluded as I finish getting nuded. Normally that would be it, but afterwards I decided to extend the category because just having sex wasn't enough. We needed to brag to our pal Zelda, but unfortunately a big old pile of putrid plop known as Ganon is keeping her captive. So the only logical thing to do is rescue her and tell her of the good deeds. I fight the good fight, but unfortunately Carl Calamity proves he is too strong of a white knight and calls me a womanizer and doesn't allow me to talk to Zelda. So I have to take the dove I won from the regular run and affix a tiny little L on its side. Ring the bell, like, and subscribe for more videos. Or don't, it's your call.